Whispers from the unseen. In the small town of Eldridge Hollow, where fog rolled in thick early each morning and hung, heavy like a shroud, Rebecca and her friends often spent their weekends gathering in the dilapidated old chapel at the edge of the woods. Rumor had it, the chapel was cursed, having borne witness to the tragic events of a long-lost cult that worshipped unseen deities. No locals would go near it, but for the group of adventurous teens, abandoned structures were magnetic. One mist-laden Saturday, curiosity got the better of Rebecca. She pushed open the rotting door of the chapel, the creak echoing in the cemetery like stillness. Inside, the air was stale, thick with whispers that seemed to flutter around her like moths to a flame. Her friends, Lucas, Sam, and Jenna, followed closely, their eyes wide with excitement laced with trepidation. "Anyone ever wonder what really happened here?" Jenna's voice trembled. "Just some old urban legend," Lucas scoffed, though he too glanced over his shoulder. "Come on, let's take some pictures." Quote, they spread out among the dusty pews, casting beams of flashlights over the faded symbols carved into the walls, spirals, void-like eyes, and strange hands reaching outward. Each symbol carried a deeper meaning, yet none of them knew the horror they were about to awaken. Rebecca felt drawn to a large mural of a figure engulfed in a dark robe, its face obscured. As she stepped closer, something flickered at the edge of her vision, a shadow deeper than the surrounding darkness. She gasped but brushed it off as her imagination. "It's just an old chapel. There's nothing here," she said, turning around to smile at her friends. But the moment was interrupted when Lucas, who stood near the altar, suddenly jerked back, his face ashen. "What's up, man?" Sam asked, laughter quelling the unease. Nothing," Lucas stammered, though his eyes were wide with fear. "Just, something moved." Quote, Rebecca rolled her eyes, stepping toward the altar. "It's probably just a rat. Let's take a look." Quote, as they gathered closer, they felt a sudden chill envelop the room. A low hum filled the air, as if the chapel itself began to breathe. Shadows shifted against the stone walls, twisting into shapes that shouldn't exist. The wind moaned through broken windows, creating a sound that resembled whispers, calling their names in a sing-songy manner. "Guys, do you hear that?" Rebecca asked, her heart racing. "It's just the wind," Lucas insisted, though he didn't sound convinced. But the whispers grew, a symphony of outrage and despair. The walls seemed to pulsate with an otherworldly energy. At that moment, Jenna gasped, pointing to the mural. "Look!" The figure's eyes had changed to a piercing white, glowing with malevolence. The whispers intensified, transforming into echoes of their names: Becca, Jenna, Lucas. It was as though the shadows were clawing for them, begging for release. Panic set in. "We need to go," Sam shouted, turning towards the entrance, but the door slammed shut, revealing an impenetrable darkness beyond. "Why won't it open?" Jenna cried, pounding on the wood in panic. "Stop, just stop," Rebecca shouted, trying to hold back her own terror. As she turned back to them, she noticed dark shapes coalescing around the altar. They morphed into figures with elongated limbs, imperceptible features, eyes that glimmered like stars against the void of their bodies. They hovered closer, taking the form of monstrous children, their mouths stretching into grins that revealed impossibly sharp teeth. "Come play with us," the figures whispered in unison, their voices shaking the very air. "Let's break a window," Lucas suggested frantically. As everyone scrambled to get to the broken panes, one of the shadowed children spoke first, its voice a chilling discord. "You can't leave, you must stay and play. Forever." Quote, Rebecca's heart raced. "We have to split up. It's the only chance." "Are you crazy?" Jenna protested, but fear was palpable in her eyes. They didn't have time to argue. The entities were inching closer. With a quick nod, they bolted into separate directions. Rebecca dashed down the aisles, adrenaline pumping. The whispers clawed at her mind, pulling her back into the shadows. "Join us, Rebecca, become one with the dark." But she wouldn't let them. She found a small window at the back, barely large enough for her to crawl through. As she squirmed out, pain grazed her arm, yet the urge to escape amplified her desperation. Behind her, she heard blood-curdling screams echo through the chapel. Pain and sorrow crashed within her as she turned to see the last flicker of her friends consumed by shadows. No, she cried, but by the time she turned back to the chapel's entrance, the door slammed shut again, sealing their fate. When the morning light broke through the fog, all that remained of Eldridge Hollow's cursed chapel was silence and its empty grounds. Rebecca stood alone, shivering but aware she had escaped. Yet, the price of survival weighed heavily in her chest. The whispers still lingered in her ear, a dreadful promise of retribution. Now, as she walked back toward town, she could feel their eyes upon her, watching, waiting, and whispering. They hadn't taken her, yet. In Eldridge Hollow, secrets remained, and some doors were better left closed.